Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. All right, we are jumping straight into an absolute epic adventure of survival, massive promises, and literally unbelievable miracles, straight from Genesis chapter 21. We're going to see two totally different worlds collide today. On one hand, a huge, joyful banquet just bursting with life, and on the other, a vast, scorching orange desert. It's packed with extreme highs, some pretty terrifying lows, and mysteries hidden right in the sand. So buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride.
So let me ask you guys a super important question. Have you ever had to wait a really long time for a promise to come true? Seriously, think about it. Maybe waiting a whole week for your birthday, or, I don't know, a month for a huge family trip. It literally feels like forever, right? Well, imagine waiting 100 years. No way, right? But that's exactly what happened to a guy named Abraham and his wife Sarah. They waited, and the years just kept rolling by. Talk about needing some serious patience.
But guess what? God totally kept his promise. Against literally all the odds, he did exactly what he said he'd do. Get this, Abraham was literally 100 years old when his son was finally born. Wow. They named him Yitz'chak. And when baby Issac was exactly 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, just like God ordered. But hey, this celebration didn't stop there. When the baby got a little older and was weaned, Abraham was just so over-the-moon happy that he threw a massive, spectacular banquet. We're talking the biggest, brightest party you could ever imagine.
And you've got to hear this quote from Sarah because it perfectly captures the moment. She said, "God has given me good reason to laugh. Now everyone who hears about it will laugh with me." She was absolutely floored. I mean, imagine being that age and suddenly holding a giggling little baby. Fun fact, actually. The name Yitz'chak, it literally translates to laughter. Her joy was just completely overflowing, and she knew anyone who heard this crazy, miraculous news would just have to smile and laugh right along with her.
But, well, things didn't stay super joyful for long. Actually, a pretty serious conflict bubbles up right in the middle of all this. Two totally different sides are about to clash. Sarah's son, Yitz'chak, and Hagar's son. Right in the middle of the party, Sarah looks over and sees Hagar's son making fun of little Yitz'chak. And oh man, Sarah was absolutely furious. She marched straight up to Abraham and fiercely demanded that Hagar, the slave girl, and her son be kicked out immediately. She was making totally sure they wouldn't share the inheritance with Yitz'chak.
Now what's super fascinating here is how God steps in to handle this really messy family drama. Abraham was heartbroken. I mean, he was incredibly distressed at the thought of sending his son away. But then, God brings this comforting heavenly presence right into the mess. He tells Abraham, "Don't be distressed because of the boy and your slave girl." God says to go ahead and listen to Sarah, confirming that Abraham's descendants would definitely be counted through Yitz'chak. But wait, here's the really amazing part. God also makes this beautiful promise. He says, "I will also make a nation from the son of the slave girl." So God is basically reassuring Abraham that yes, both of these boys are going to be completely taken care of. So trusting that promise, Abraham gets up super early the very next morning. He gives Hagar some bread, a skin filled with water, puts him on her shoulder, and sends her and the boy away. And guys, this throws us right into the most terrifying part of the explainer. We are walking straight into the scorching, deep orange sand dunes of the Beersheba desert. Just try to imagine that blistering heat. Hagar and the boy are just wandering endlessly. And then, the absolute worst-case scenario happens. The water runs out. It's completely gone. Hagar is so panicked and heartbroken that she puts the boy under a desert bush and she walks a little distance away because, as she said, "I can't bear to watch my child die." And she just sits there in the dust, looking away, absolutely weeping. So here's the big question. What is going to happen to Hagar and the boy? The stakes are literally life or death right now. Let's just pause for a second and think about how incredibly scary that must have been for them. They're totally alone, lost in a massive, boiling hot desert, miles from anywhere, with zero water. Are they actually going to survive this? Yes, they are, because God heard the boy's voice. Right there, in the darkest, scariest possible moment, an angel of God calls down from heaven. The angel shouts, "What's wrong with you, Hagar? Don't be afraid." The angel tells her God heard the boy and tells her to get up, hold him tight, and repeats that huge promise that he's going to become a great nation. And then, out of nowhere, a miracle. God opens Hagar's eyes and boom, a brilliant, sparkling well of water just magically appears right there in the dry sand. She rushes over, fills her water skin, and gives the boy that life-saving drink. They made it.
And just look at how beautifully the whole thing turns out. God kept his word 100%. He was with the boy as he grew up strong and healthy. Instead of being defeated by that harsh wilderness, they ended up living in the lush Paran desert. The boy learned the ways of the wild and actually became this amazing archer. And later on, his mom even found him a wife from Egypt. So, despite that absolutely terrifying journey where literally all hope seemed lost, God's promise held true, and the boy ended up thriving.
All right, let's shift gears for a second to a brand new mystery. Back with Abraham, he's dealing with his own totally wild situation. Picture this. On one side, you have Abraham's precious, life-giving water well. On the other side, the servants of a super-powerful army commander named Avimelech. Abraham actually had to confront this guy directly because Avimelech's sneaky servants went and stole Abraham's well. Now remember, out in the hot desert, a well is literally the most valuable thing you can possibly own. Stealing one is a massive deal, and Abraham definitely wasn't just going to let that slide.
When Abraham brings it up, Avimelech claims he had absolutely no idea his guys did that. So how do you fix a huge problem like this back then? You make a treaty. Avimelech knew God was with Abraham, so he asks him to swear an oath of lasting kindness, and Abraham agrees. But to make it super official, Abraham brings out sheep and cattle, and he specifically sets apart 7 female lambs. He hands these over to Avimelech as a living witness, proof, once and for all, that Abraham dug that well. To top it all off and seal the deal, Abraham plants a tamarisk tree right on the spot, creating a permanent place to call on the everlasting God.
And because of those 7 specific lambs and that unbreakable promise they made, this famous spot got a really special name, Beer Shiva. It's a really cool name, actually, because it literally translates to Well of 7 or Well of an Oath. That well and that name became this permanent, flowing reminder of the peace treaty they made, the truth they established, and the water that kept them alive in such a dry land. And Abraham actually ended up living there peacefully for a really long time.
So, after the 100 years of waiting, the crazy scary deserts, the miraculous water, and the stolen wells, what's the big takeaway here? Well, the moral of Genesis 21, God keeps promises, providing for all, even in desperate times. Whether it's giving Abraham and Sarah a baby at 100 years old, which, let's be real, seems scientifically impossible, or providing a sparkling well for Hagar when she's crying in the blazing sand, God was always there. He was constantly watching, acting, and making absolutely sure everyone was taken care of, no matter how impossible the situation looked.
So, I want to leave you all with one final thought to chew on. When things look really tough in your own life, how will you remember that a miracle might be just around the corner? Keep that sense of wonder alive, remember this epic desert adventure we explored today, and never forget that amazing things are absolutely possible when you hold on to hope. Like, share, and subscribe.